Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming on board to watch our get together with Sue Nicholson. I'm excited, Sue, to have you here. So, thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy, busy day to talk with me. I am really excited to hear all about your summertime, big, hairy, audacious adventures. But, Sue, I wanted to first go ahead and can you just briefly give us a brief introduction of like where you live and what kind of cycling you do and maybe how long you've been doing it?
I'm not, excuse me. I'm in Tacoma, Washington. I cycle with Tacoma, Washington Bicycle Club
Awesome.
and mostly on paved trails. Foothills Trail is a prominent trail here.
Great.
It's 20 miles, so you get a 40-mile ride,
Great.
half which is great. Also, a favorite trail of mine is the Luce to Cascade Trail, which goes from North Bend to the Snoqualmie Summit Tunnel.
Wonderful. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on to talk today. I wanted to start with a very kind of basic question, which was how did you get started with bike packing and touring, and when did you start?
I had to look that up. It feels like I've been bike touring forever, but the reality is I did my first bike tour in April of 2021.
Wow.
And what I remember about it was I had this invitation to go bike touring. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's 40 miles every day. I can't for 4 days, just 4 days.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I remember, just coincidentally, I saw on Facebook this ad by this woman who's saying, I've got a special for women over 40 and I can get them up to do. And I remember writing to you and saying, hey, I've got this invitation to go bike packing. And you wrote and said, how much can you do now? And I said, well, 25 miles, one day
Yeah.
at a time. I can't do two. And you wrote back and said, well, we'll try and get you up to speed, but I don't know if you can do that in 4 weeks.
It was only 4 weeks. That's what we had to work together. Well,
Yeah.
how did it end up? Tell everybody.
Well, what I remember about is I got this strength training exercise, and the first thing on the strength training was do 1 minute of squats.
Yep.
And 1 minute of squats is 50 squats.
Good
And
for you.
my thought was, wow, this woman's pretty smart. She knows something about training, because if she'd said do 50 squats, I would have cheated.
Yeah. Good for you for counting
I
them.
would have done 35 and said, well, that's pretty good. Okay, so the bike tour, on that bike tour, we left the first day, they actually only did 15 miles, and the next day was 55 miles.
Yep.
And I struggled with the 55 miles. The temperature was dropping. The planned route for the trip was to go over Barlow Pass, a fairly low Cascade Pass. It snowed that night. We stayed in a motel, and my plan was to leave the tour after 2 days. I wasn't going over a pass. And because of the snow, they changed the route. Are we surprised? And it was all flat. Stayed with the group through the 4 days.
Yeah, I was so excited when you got back and told me I did all 4 days. I was like, what? You were going to be done after two. I remember that first, like that email, I just was like, what? Of course, then I knew I was dealing with a really special athlete who, like partially it worked out in your favor, but also you it mentally were strong because you didn't just give up after 2 days. So that is fantastic. I was so thrilled for that. When you wrote in, didn't you write us and you sent us a picture after that event? I think you did in our group.
Yeah.
You guys can all go back. Yeah.
One of the things I realized when I thought back over my um, bicycle tours was we ate in restaurants for 2 nights and a motel, 2 nights in a motel. So it was sort of a great introduction to bike touring, but not the full thing.
Right. Because there was no camping, right?
We camped 2 nights.
Okay.
At the first night, because of the snow, we were in a motel. Second
Mhm.
night, because of some equipment failure, we were in a motel, and then we camped the last 2 nights.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's great. I know we had people wondering how you got started, and that is great. She had an invitation, and then you started training for it with about 4 or 5 weeks notice. So it worked out. Yeah.
My
Don't be like Sue. Start earlier than Sue did. But I love it. You persevered through terrible weather and had a great time because you clearly went back for more.
I did. My next one was adventure cycling tour and around the Olympic Peninsula, and I think it was 100 and some miles, about 40 to 50 miles a day.
Yeah. And
Uh,
that,
and then I did a commercial tour in Amsterdam.
yes.
That was last summer, a year ago.
Yes.
And 5 days into a 10-day trip, I got COVID.
Oh, I remember that. You mentioned that you had to, did you stop? You
Yes,
had to stop,
we
right? Good.
were, it was a bike and barge tour, and the barge acted like the hotel, and we went on bicycle to a new location every day. Um,
Yeah.
we had agreed we would leave the barge if we got COVID. That was a predetermined. So we went into isolation in Amsterdam,
Yeah.
and I continued to bicycle after Amsterdam and had a relapse in January.
Okay. Yeah. This year, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In January 2023, and
Yeah.
I came out of that zapped.
I remember talking to you after that, and you said, "Well, this kind of leads into my next question, which was what what prompted you to kind of sign up to work with us this year with the cycling success system?"
Oh, there was no question. I just thought it was a great program. I liked the approach. Um, and I liked how it's sort of grown over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And a lot more emphasis on fueling and hydration.
Yep.
And I loved the fact that you set me up with a program that got me back on track because I was really struggling.
I remember you said that after your COVID relapse, you were just like, I can't get consistent. Like it was just a struggle. So that that getting over the hump, it's not just starting because you know how to start, you know how to get going, but it was a lot of those variables, the feeling sick, the not sure if you're doing it right, the fueling, like all of it, and then you were like, you know what? I gotta just let's do this, right?
Um, the thing I think that one of the things that really was very important to me was getting the chart of how many calories you need every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, not just the protein, but the total calories, because I've grown up with, oh, you got to be thin and be thin, cut out calories. And
Right.
that was very helpful. And all of the fueling stuff, all the lessons were really helpful.
Yeah. In fact, I think you said in one of your notes about fueling is that once you started fueling correctly, it was faster than a new bike. Isn't that what you said?
Better, better.
Yeah, exactly. And there was serious growth from just fueling enough before and during and after all of your rides. And I wanted to brag on you a little bit because I just saw one of your amazing notes that you sent about setting up a new personal record up your normal hill, which you did this summer. And at first you were like, everything's terrible. I'm going slower. And then the very next email I got was, I just set a new personal record. So that was again a huge moment, where you kind of turned the corner and you knew in your head it was going to work because it had worked before, but it was, putting all the pieces together and unexpectedly doing some best times in some hard situations. And can you tell us a little bit like, did you change anything to kind of start seeing these new personal records while you were working with us?
Um, I began I paid attention to the timing of eating and
Yeah.
made sure that I was eating regularly and not skipping things. And one of those times when I was really down, I wrote and I said, I'm not doing this. I'm not getting any better. And today was the worst. I got to so many miles and I could hardly go any further. And you went, well, what'd you have for breakfast?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
bingo. And internalizing that I need to eat on a regular basis was real important. Um,
Yeah. It's
Beginning to
huge.
say, oh, something's wrong here. I need to eat.
Yeah.
I can't identify specific things, but I know that I begin to carry more food with me and
Mhm.
in smaller amounts,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
not skip that. And I began to do more um,
Protein, like a
the
shake.
hydration, the electrolytes with the hydration,
Yeah,
and
we talked
that
about
made,
that.
that made a big difference too.
Especially in the summertime with it being hot. It was hot. A few of those training weekends were really warm, and we talked a lot about hydrating enough in the heat. Yeah, exactly. And that makes a huge difference in giving you energy so you can keep going and going and going. So
And
I
with my
Mhm.
last trip on the long uphills, it was hard to hydrate, and I recognized that as a real problem that I began to have.
Yeah. That's a really good point. And a lot of times when I'm, for example, doing a gravel event with a lot of long uphills, I just fully switched to something that was easier, like doing a camelback or a bladder where you can have a hose. That just encourages more drinking. So as we continue to do more, like you said you were going to maybe next year, that you could look into a hydration pack like that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I put a a, a basket type, a little basket type on my handlebars because once I get my bike loaded, it's really hard to reach for the water on the frame.
Exactly. Yeah. There's opportunities out there. So you're not the only one with that struggle. A lot of us do. So, but it's great that you recognize that. And I wanted to bring it back around to recognizing when you were out of energy and how oftentimes as a cyclist, we just need to feel that like sputtering on empty feeling to remind us that I don't want to ever feel like that again.
Yeah.
And did I eat enough before I go on the ride? And is there enough food in my pockets for the ride? So I, admirably that you were able to get through that and get home with no problems. So good work. And then can I brag one more time? Because I
Sure.
think the next week after that, you then set a new personal record in on the next like big hill climb that you did. Also, new speed record, which you had pointed out now doing them much faster. So, like by 2 miles an hour faster was what you had written. So, again, not just do you feel better, but your speed ticks up consistently as well. So, congratulations on going through the highs and lows and not giving up. that was a really big deal. Congratulations. Yeah. Oh, wait. So, one more question for you. Have you noticed a change in your cycling now? So, we kind of talked through a bunch of changes, but have you noticed a significant change in your cycling kind of since you started to work with us and after you finished your coaching with us, in the end of the summer? Is there anything that kind of sticks with you, or a significant change from when you started to now?
I think one of the things that's really changed is that I'm much more consistent as a cyclist. Cadence wise, uphill, downhill, I'm just much more consistent than I used to be.
I love.
Um, and the strength is amazing. I'm much, much stronger now than I was. And
Yeah.
I figure at my age, I get to brag if I get stronger.
Heck yeah. I think that's super important. Tell everybody twice. But I think there's this prevailing feeling that you can't do anything about it because we're old. We've been doing this forever. And I don't think that that's the case at all. I think you are a perfect example of embracing some strength training. And now you're riding faster up hills at how 70 plus? So,
70
yeah.
plus, yeah. Yeah. Colleen, who was trip leader, liked to tell people that I was 79. And I said, you could get more dramatic and say I'm almost 80.
Definitely. Yeah, bring out the drama. I love that. Well, what other results came from any of the trips that you've worked on with, together when it was in 2021 or this summer? What other results did you enjoy, or what sticks out in your mind?
When I thought back about my other trips, I realized that this last trip was the only one where I put everything together. I put there's the bicycle riding stronger. I carried food and we camped almost every night.
Mhm.
And so I had to be much more aware of the
Yeah.
food. And we had to be real careful of hydration. It was raining like crazy. It's hard to be attuned to hydration when you're sopping wet, but it really made a difference.
Yeah.
There was a point where I realized I wasn't um,
Yeah.
hydrating enough.
That's amazing. And you said the first 3 or 4 days poured. I was like, whew, I don't know how you kept going. I would have been like, I'm out. I'm done. So kudos to you continuing on down
It was
the coast.
warm. It was warm rain. It was and in the Pacific Northwest, there's always a break in the rain.
True. Yeah. Yeah. And so another one of my favorite results that you had was, I have told this story so many times, but from your on a training ride a couple of years ago, and in the summertime, and you beat everybody up the hill, and you were accused of having an electric bike because you dropped everyone.
I rode with that same group and they reminded me. And
That's
one of them said, you make going uphill look easy.
Yeah, I love it.
So
Yeah,
it was an early ride.
I love that. Well, I just wanted to come on board and celebrate with you and your big event this summer. I know you ended up, well, is there any other stories that stand out from your Oregon coast trip?
Um, well, you always have little bits and pieces,
Yeah.
but they always would say to me, oh, well, I was a straggler, mind you. I was generally the last one to get over the hill or the last one to catch up, mostly because I think I looked around at the scenery more than everybody else.
Yeah.
Would always say, wow, you're smiling when you join us.
Uh,
And, even in the rain, they'd go, oh, what's with you? You're smiling.
yeah.
I just was happy. I'm always happy on a bicycle.
That's fantastic. I just love it. And if anyone watching hasn't seen her photos, go check them out in the Facebook group because they're hilarious. She's smiling, doing silly fun stuff in the Tillamook cheese bus and all of that. So I
Yeah, that was a day off. Well, a few hours off where we went through the factory.
agree. Yeah. Did you get a big scoop of ice cream?
Oh, we had lunch there. Tillamook has set it up so that they have a whole food service, and we not only got food, regular food, with lots of cheese, bits and
Hmm.
pieces, and ice cream. Yeah, it was wonderful.
I love that. Well, Sue, that is a great place to end it. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for coming on board. And if anyone has questions for Sue, just drop them below. I can send them over to her. She'll probably see them as well. And thank you so much for coming on to talk about your experience. And I am just wanted to say again how proud I am of you, of how hard you worked this summer and the other summers as well. This was kind of our third summer together. So I cannot wait to see what you cook up next. I'm excited to see what happens. But do you have anything on the horizon as we wrap it up? Have you made any thoughts or plans for the next year?
I don't have plans. It's like I had to recover from the Oregon coast
Yeah,
first and think through it. I have a friend that wants to go hiking in the Alps, not bicycling, but
yeah, that
hiking.
sounds
Yeah,
really delightful
look
as well.
at that. And
Mhm.
I haven't decided on the next one.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Just I love you're always got your eye on something. So, all right. Well, I really appreciate how often you're in the group chatting with people, chatting all together. And we can all learn so much from all of the effort that you've put in and all of your results. So I really
Thank,
appreciate it. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for your support.
Yeah. Anytime. I hope that you have a great afternoon, everybody, and we'll catch you later. All right. Bye.